Uh-oh. Daddy's away and I get to sit in the big boy chair today. Episode 27. We're talking about your excuses. They're real. They also don't matter. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to, with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
What is happening? I never get to sit in the TV chair.
You never get to sit in the TV chair, and I never face this way. I feel like I'm just...
This is weird.
I think I like the scenery better. I feel like I've been staring at the mountains when the Grand Canyon was behind me the whole time. I just never turned around. It's beautiful looking this way.
I know. I can look over at Derek and see everybody. I'm not in my own little sad corner. It's fantastic. So Nick's somewhere. Where is he? Florida?
Florida, I think.
I don't know.
Getting old.
I don't get vacations.
I remember those.
I know. So, man, Brian and I were kind of coming up with what in the hell two people could talk about. Because make no mistake about it, guys. When you're shooting a show like this, one person down is nerve-wracking.
Yeah, there's a very, very specific formula to this show. we are missing one of the very important variables right now. So this might not add up to anything. This is going to be like when your calculator just shows you an error sign.
Well, and here's the thing that we were talking about today and how we thought we could make it cool and being a little bit of just like our flavor to it. We all get to do our own thing, but you and I spend a lot of time together in business, in personal life. Mm-hmm. Like, candidly, I would say that you and Nick are probably my two best friends, right? And I spend a lot more time with you than him just because we work together. So I think it's a cool opportunity for us to talk about some of the stuff in our own business, some of the stuff that we're learning through our specific coaching, and then just, kind of the shit that you and I stumble into over a pack of White Claws.
Yeah, this is going to be the first time we talked about this without some imbibements. Is that the right word? Imbibing chemicals involved?
I don't know. You're the creative writing major. Don't ask me what the hell.
I use artistic license to just make words sound real even if they're not. So
I use my lack of college degree to make words up. So
there you go.
It works out perfect. So here's the deal. We talk about excuses a lot on this show, I think, right? And we kind of take a hardline stance because really at the end of the day, they don't matter. Right? But I kind of wanted to take an approach today on some of the excuses we have because they're super valid.
Yeah, they're super valid, and I think we're going to bring this back to mindset. So we're, 30 seconds in? Buckle up. It's going back there at some point anyway. I know that we talk about it a ton, but we have talked about this so many times in so many different regards, but it keeps kind of showing its face in different ways. And I think that will probably bring up some scenarios that have happened in our world recently that have been really eye-opening even to me. I mean, leading team meetings and coaching people every day and pouring into people, I learn just as much as I teach because I think that you learn as a coach so much because you sort of have your own mindset and your own way of thinking and doing things and all that type of stuff. Yep. But then when you're charged with helping others through their problems, which are maybe things you've never dealt with before, you start to learn a whole lot about what other people are dealing with, what their struggles are, and then the excuses they make, right? And valid excuses as well, but just because an excuse is valid doesn't mean that it's got to disrupt you, doesn't mean that it's got to hold you back, doesn't mean that it's got to be the obstacle that makes you quit or that keeps you down or anything like that. So I think that it's an eye-opening experience being on that mentorship and leadership journey, and I'm learning more and more every day about kind of the challenges that people go through and how we can overcome them. So I think that we've got a lot of examples we can talk about today that'll be really, really relative to the different people in our audience.
I had my coaching call for Project U today with Adam, and we were kind of talking about this, and he brought up something about, he called it shoulder day. Right. And it's just whether it's shoulder day at the gym, which really sucks, or it's just the weight of everything is on your shoulders, whatever it is, if you're in a position of leadership, man, people are going to look to you in the hard times. Yep. And we should really be thankful for that, right? When you're going through something in life and it is absolute chaos and you're stripped down to just survival mode type stuff, you retreat to the safest places, the safest people, right? So if people are coming to you in those moments and they're coming to you with their biggest problems, and they're coming to you with the really hard, nitty-gritty, dirty stuff they probably wouldn't share with some other people, that's a sign that they look at you as the type of person who gets shit done and can handle stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's stressful. For me, I don't personally default to high-stress situations very well. I tend to get frazzled. We had it happen today, right? But to have people come to you when they don't know what to do, it's the natural progression of leadership. And I'm learning it at a very, very beginner level stage, right? But it's kind of a cool experience to be looked upon that way. It also forces you to become a little bit better of a listener and understanding what some people's problems are that may not be a problem for you, but it's real for them.
It 100% is real. And I'll give you kind of an example just from our team meeting yesterday, right? Just something that I've sort of learned on my journey, going back to people sort of defaulting to their safest place. I have gotten, and you know this, and for our listeners to kind of catch up to speed, I've pretty much gotten rid of all the inspirational bullshit in our office, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's by design, right? And that's not to say that there's no place for that stuff or anything like that. It's just the methodology behind it, behind taking down a lot of the inspirational posters, behind, getting rid of a lot of the hype stuff and a lot of the rah-rah and the pump-up stuff, is that it's really, really, really easy to get real hyped up and get real pumped and be real positive when either you're in a neutral state where nothing's happened at all yet, or when you're already in a positive state, right? When you have a win, it's really easy to stay positive, right? Because things are going well. On payday, on closing day, it's real easy to be positive when you see, 5 figures in your bank account that got put in there, right? It's such a duality between that and your lowest times, right? When you're in your lowest times, or when things are going wrong, or when you didn't get that appointment or that listing or whatever, or that client fired you, or that deal went south and they terminated, or this or that, like, it's really hard to default back to that picture of the dude looking over the mountains and it's like, go after your vision, or whatever it is.
Perseverance.
Yeah, 100%, right? Because there's no real substance in that. Right, the substance is somewhere. There's some undertone of it, but it's not there on the surface. Right, it takes a little bit of mental work to be able to see some inspirational stuff and still be inspired when things are going wrong. What I want to do from day one, I want people to come onto our team. I want them to know that this is going to be a grind at the beginning. Maybe not even at the beginning. It's probably going to be a grind all the way through.
6 years in.
Yeah, but you're going to be grinding for bigger and better stuff, right? Yeah. You've got to embrace the hard times. You've got to embrace the failure. And when your excuses are valid, you've got to embrace that doesn't make the reality of the situation any less real, right? And so from our team meeting yesterday, we talk about, we did gratitude first, like we always do. I said, what are you thankful for today? We all went around the room. We talked about, we had some great, wins and stuff like that. And I said, fantastic. Now that that's out of the way, I want to know what's the worst thing that happened to you last week. What's your biggest failure last week, right? Tell me your darkest stuff. Tell me what went wrong, right? And we use that as a method because everybody went around the room and one person said, I didn't follow up with somebody and a $500,000 listing got away from me because when I called, they said I hadn't heard from you, and so I went with a different agent, right? Yep. Another person said, I didn't get a listing because, I felt like she got squeamish a little bit whenever I tried to really play hardball with the paperwork, right? I thought the appointment was going really well. When I tried to close her for paperwork, she got kind of weird about it. I should have just either left him there or, said, that's fine, let's follow up or whatever. And I pushed it a little too hard and she ghosted me. And now, she's going with somebody else, right? That was my biggest failure in the week. And we went around the room just like that. And I said, fantastic. Thank you for sharing. I said, now somebody tell me the commonality between all of these failures, right? And these are things that affect people's lives that they're pretty emotionally torn up about, right? That's money that could have been in their pocket that's never going to be in their pocket now, right? And people started throwing out, different buzzwords and different things or whatever. And I said, here's the thing. Every single failure that you guys just listed right there was an opportunity that you also created out of your hard work, right? Like, you didn't follow up with a guy and you lost a listing. Well, you created that lead in the first place by lead generating, right?
Yeah.
Right? You missed out on a listing because you were playing too much hardball with the paperwork and you weren't able to close her and you lost the listing. You got that appointment because you picked up the phone and started making some damn calls, right? So here's the thing. You can let this crush you and you can make that an excuse like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the tools or I don't have the right, skills or talent or whatever. Or you can see the opportunity and go, you know what? I did the hardest part. I created that opportunity. Now I have the opportunity to utilize, to get myself skilled up, to listen to my coaches, listen to my leaders, listen to my guides, and go out and do the exact same thing and create that opportunity and close it this time. we have this mindset that this is just like a one-off process, that if you just lead generate, things are going to happen. And that's true to an extent, but they're only going to happen if you take your failures and move forward, right? And if you just let every failure get you down and use that as an excuse to quit, or an excuse to not lead generate the next day, or an excuse to just, curl up in your little ball and feel sorry for yourself, that's entirely valid. Mm-hmm. It is really emotionally distressing to lose out on stuff like that, but it doesn't make the reality change at all. The reality is you're stressing over something that you created by your hard work, right? So it's not a one-off thing. You got to lead generate, and then you've got to get skilled up and close them, right? And that's a process, but you've got to be, dude, nobody's going to sit there and create a freaking inspirational poster that's like, go out and set appointments and you'll probably fail a lot still, right? Yeah. Like, that's not fun to watch, but that is the reality. It's just how you want to shape your mindset around it. Do you want to revel in the fact and have a small win that you did the work to get the appointment, or you want to only focus on the bad shit that happened so it stops you from moving forward?
We're in Dallas, and the local radio station, The Ticket, always makes fun of Jason Garrett because he uses the word process about 9,000 times in every interview. But here's the deal, like, that's really what it is. The challenges bring the growth and the breakthrough part. Like, and I'm super susceptible to this too. I see somebody who's on a different level than me, and I just want to be there.
Yep.
And I don't think any of us see all the failures. Even, look, we do all this video stuff. Mm-hmm. I think before we started shooting all these videos, I thought these people spent hours with cameras stuck in their faces, right, going around doing stuff. All this stuff that we're shooting, for those of you guys who are like seeing all the taco videos and all the silly stuff we're doing, that's a couple hours of our week.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, now there's editing and stuff behind it that you have to leverage out. So if you're taking on every part of the process, for sure. But it's not an abundance of time for you to make the next thing happen. A lot of it's implementation. It's backing whatever the problem is down to like a few steps that you can handle to put some action to it. And so many of us just want to sit there and dig into our own excuses. 90% of who we are is made by ourselves, right?
Oh, 100%.
And we're so uncomfortable with that, because if you subscribe to the thought process that 99% of who you are, you made yourself, mm-hmm, you can't pawn your shit off on somebody else. You can't tell me it's my fault if you accept responsibility for the fact that you're 99% self-made.
Yep.
The good stuff and the crappy stuff comes with that.
100%.
And people just don't like looking at themselves through that lens at all. And if they did, and they would stop thinking of every single thing having to be a positive forward momentum building event, and some of the setbacks, some of the times that it feels like you don't have passion for whatever you're doing, right? That's the build up to something better. You're not always going to walk around in a lily white cloud of positive energy and great things happening to you. Sometimes you just get kicked in the nuts up and down the road, and you still have to show up every day.
Well, and that's why I don't like a lot of the inspirational stuff, is because it numbs your senses to the fact that that's going to happen regardless, right? Like, you are going to get kicked in the nuts.
Yep.
And it's going to continue to happen, and you're only going to be successful on the premise that you accept that, and accept that that's part of success. And I think the taco videos are actually a really good, if you want actionable advice, then the taco videos are actually a really, really, really good example of that. Kelly, if you can post the link to the Undoubtedly Dallas YouTube channel in the comments so people can see what I'm talking about here. What I think you and I and Nick as well, all three of us, do very, very, very well and have built businesses on this, is just we embrace failure before we even fail. Mm-hmm. Like, we just go into whatever endeavor it is knowing that it's going to fucking suck at the beginning, and we're going to have no idea what we're doing, and it's going to look like trash, and people are going to be like, those guys are bozos, or those guys can't sell real estate, or that guy's team sucks, or whatever it is.
The thing is, they never say that, though. That's our fear of what they're going to say.
Exactly.
They actually reach out, like Jim Crimple being shout out Sconson.
Yeah.
After we did the taco videos, like, reached out to us. He's like, I need to do a video series on cheese curds.
That's 100%. Like, and if you go watch that stuff, it's such a striking example of what it is that I'm talking about right here. What we're talking about right now. If you just go and watch, we've only done 3 of these things in 3 weeks, right? Go to the YouTube channel and watch the first 2 videos. There's the link. Go to the YouTube channel, watch the first 2 videos, and then watch the third one. Like, I was, if we didn't have this mindset, I know that I would have been embarrassed to even post the first 2. They are so bad. the production quality, it's nonsense. Like, we literally, on a whim, on a Friday, Matt and I were sitting in the office like, we got to start branding ourselves.
Yeah.
We got to do this. We had this whole vision that you're going to see play out over the next couple of years for branding ourselves in our local market. It's all just it's a huge social media and just organic content plan that we're putting in place, and you'll see it play out. But we literally just didn't think about it too much at all. We're like, we got to figure out what people are searching for on the internet. We got to make awesome videos about it. And then we got to find a way to direct them back to our real estate stuff. And so we were like, boom, we just did best blank in Dallas, and it was best tacos in Dallas. Like, boom, we're doing taco videos, right? He was like, do you know how to do videos? I was like, I got a cell phone. He's like, I got one too. Great. We're going right now. And we shot our first taco video. We had no microphones. We have no idea how to light a thing properly. We have no idea how to capture sound quality or
Watch
edit.
the second one. You will see that.
We have no idea how to edit this thing. None of it, right? By the third video, it actually looks pretty damn good, right? And that's what holds so many people back, is the excuse. And this is a Tony Robbins thing that I'm sure you've heard a million times. Is people do not have a lack of resources. They have a lack of resourcefulness, right? And we had a tremendous lack of resources when we started this. That's probably the number one excuse that people use to either quit something or not do something, is I don't know how, or I don't have the resources, right? I would be, a billionaire if I could execute on my amazing idea of whatever, but I don't really know the right people. Well, fucking meet them, right? Like, we don't really know how to build a huge YouTube following from our silly taco videos, and you should see some of the other funny bits we're going to do. But I guarantee you, when we're sitting here by this time next year, we're going to have thousands and thousands of people that are subscribed to our channel and watch our stuff. And it's all because we were okay with failing forward and knowing that the initial stuff we put out there was going to be garbage. And it even is on the back end, right? Now that we've posted this stuff, we have got to have people that help us learn SEO, how to build a following, how to promote all this type of stuff. And we're failing at that too right now. But I guarantee you, we're going to keep going, because the failure is not a surprise to us. We didn't go into this expecting to be successful day one. And a lot of people, especially in real estate, they get their license. They expect to be successful on day one. And then when they're not, they tell themselves, I don't have this, or I'm not good at this, or this isn't for me, or maybe I should just go back to corporate America and just slowly hate my life for the next 40 years.
Well, and they think they're going to chase off people who probably don't even matter anyways, right? Like the taco video thing is a perfect example of the shenanigans that are going on right now, right? Like, there are probably people who think the taco videos are ridiculous.
Oh, 100%.
I literally got tagged in a referral today. I just took a new buyer today. Some guy tagged me who I know, but I know him through social media, know him through real estate. Mm-hmm. Tagged me for a referral, was like, hey, Matt Kelderman's a great person, and if you work with him, he'll get you free tacos.
See?
It's ridiculous.
And we haven't even done that many of them yet,
I'm just sharing it to my personal page, right? So on top of that, if you're an agent who doesn't particularly want to lead generate all the time, sit on the phones, this is not an excuse to do that.
Right.
But you can parlay this kind of stuff into real estate. This is all part, in 2019, this is all part of this blob of stuff that you just do for brand awareness and marketing and whatever it is. Somebody asked me the other day, like, did you lead generate today? No, but I shot 4 hours worth of video content that's going to go towards bringing brand awareness that will eventually bring me and her group DFW business.
100%.
And there's something to be said for that, right?
This is the age that we're living in. And to give you a kind of another example of I think you made such a really good point there, is that, like, we get so nervous about things that we get, like, people are going to think about us. Like you said, we're going to scare off the people that we probably don't want in our world anyway. I've used this saying so many times, and I'll continue to say it. Like, we need to get over the fact that, for the most part, we are not important enough to be so self-conscious. Like, we act like we're so embarrassed to do things, like the whole world revolves around us sometimes. Like, if we look bad or feel awkward, like, our whole world comes crashing down. And it's just not true. Like, if people don't like you and you're doing good organic stuff and you're a good human being who puts, like, good vibes or whatever hippie stuff out into the world, like, you cannot be afraid of what people think about you. Like, our next deal right now, we have one of our assistants is literally going to go through, and Matt and I are almost all full of friends on our Facebook groups or Facebook pages. So it's like almost 10,000 people. And just personally messaging every single one of our Facebook friends and just being like, hey, I thought you might like our taco videos. Would you mind going and subscribing to our YouTube channel? Like, I'm talking about people I haven't talked to in 15 years
Some
since
people
high
you
school.
will never
People
talk to.
I've never met, never talked to, have no idea who they are. And you know what? A lot of people are going to think that's weird. Like, I will probably get some messages back like, dude, I don't know you. Stop sending me unsolicited messages. And you know what? That's 100% okay. That's not going to affect my mentality. But for a lot of people, it would, because it'd be like, oh, I don't want to feel weird or awkward, or people are going to be mean to me or whatever. Like, that's a valid excuse for feeling the way that you do. It doesn't change the reality that it's a great way to grow your YouTube channel.
Well, and I never used to, I mean, for the longest time when I got into real estate, I didn't accept other realtors as like friends on my Facebook because I thought like they were going to steal all my amazing ideas, which was nothing.
Which was, yeah, me too.
It was nothing. Now I would say that's the majority of the people I work with, not just because my business is largely referral based, but it's, you know, it's a market that I'm marketing to, like real estate, and it has nothing to do with notoriety. Like, first off, like, the taco page, I made a joke in our last video. I think we have one video that has over 100 views, right? Like,
that's huge for us.
That is actually, I'm pretty excited about it. But either way, it's nothing, right? It's not about notoriety. It's not even about fame or anything ridiculous like that. It's just being a person that other people think of when they think of fun shit.
Yeah.
Like tacos, all the stuff we do, real estate. I posted a picture, you know, if you want to be friends with me on Facebook, send me a friend request. But I posted a picture, Luke's here with us today, right? He's been dressed as Spider-Man for like 48 hours. So I got a picture of him in here in the room with Spider-Man, right? People just think it's cool to see your kids, see other stuff, right? Like, and it's just a snapshot of your life.
Yep.
Don't feel like you have to spend all this time oversharing. And candidly, it's not even about social media. It's just about putting the stuff out there that you want. Social media is just a conduit to get it to more people.
Oh, 100%. And I think that you do a really, really good job of that, because you do some things on Facebook that I can guarantee you speak to your bottom line, that aren't just like straight up real estate or lead generation, that I guarantee you have generated more agent referrals, more money in your pocket, like that most people it would be out of their comfort zone, right? Like, you have talked about, you know, your struggles with feeling overwhelmed, just things that, you think when you're having a bad day, you have no problem about talking about some of the things that you're struggling with, and you've just put it out there very candidly, not in a bitchy way, but just in a, hey, guess what? Everybody deals with this stuff. I'm going to talk about it. So if you're having a day like mine, just understand that I got you, right? Yep. And people have loved that, because it's such a polar opposite to what most real estate agents do. On social media especially, people love to make their lives look like they are freaking just cherry pie all the time, dude. Like, we only want to post the best parts of ourselves online. And the reality is, like, that's such a saturated market, right? Like, the bit with the new car and like the perfect life and the perfect family and all that type of stuff, and that may be your life. That's great. Awesome. Great for you. People will see that stuff, and it'll just be more the white noise,
it's
right?
Not the dudes. It's not the people I want to attract either.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we're parts of tons of those groups. We know a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
Like, I see the type of people who comment on their stuff and engage with their stuff. I don't like any of those people either. And it doesn't. I can guarantee you, it probably doesn't speak to their business for the most part. People want to do business with real people that they like, know, and trust, right? And I think there's nothing more trustworthy about a human being than when they can be vulnerable and put some of their stuff out there to try and help others, and be like, this is some of the stuff that keeps me up at night. Let's engage. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation about it. Like, that's putting real content and real value and just purity out in the world. That is not you just taking a picture of you and your new Beamer, right? Like, yeah, you might think that, oh, they look successful, I'm going to freaking send them business and do business with them because they bought a $50,000 car. Great. I've done it. I've trusted you. It doesn't work, right? Like, it's just everybody does that stuff. And that's the same mentality that you show in the office every single day when we send out 1 million text messages to, our database or, expireds or whatever. And you just get the most horrendous responses just, about, you and you wish your family died and all this type of horrible stuff. And it just rolls right off your back. Most people will get crushed by that type of stuff. But when you're able to be honest about, everything in your life, and I think when you're able to be honest about your failures and moving forward, and just be a beacon for the idea that nobody's perfect and no life is perfect, that's attractive to people. And it helps you get that mentality that nothing's going to hurt you. Yeah. If you ever want to see any of those text messages, join our group. The only real estate group worth being a part of. I post the really good ones in there. I ignore 90% of them because it's just not worth getting a bad review over getting in a pissing contest with somebody on text message. Here's the thing, right? Like, I think for a lot of people, Adam said this today, you're not going to duck pain, right? You're either going to have the pain of being mediocre or you're going to have the pain of being of growth, right? There's no in between, right? Because there's nobody, and I'm not saying mediocre in references to money. I'm saying mediocre in reference to joy, right? Like, if you're either going to sit around and be the guy who coulda, woulda, shoulda, I should have done that. Had I started doing sit-ups 6 months ago, whatever it is, it's not even about money. It's just about whatever your personal fulfillment comes from. You're either going to be the person who wallows in the fact that they didn't reach that level of fulfillment, or you're going to be the person who is not constantly, but if you're pushing yourself forward, there's pain that comes with growth. Little kids hurt when their bones grow, right? Adults hurt when they have to grow mentally. If you're going through something, I'm going through stuff in my personal life, and someday I'll share all this stuff. But it's just too ongoing right now. There's just some situations that are going to be shitty, they're going to be worse, and they're going to be bad, right? So stop looking for your silver lining. Realize it's shoulder day, and sometimes you just have to run on 5 hours of sleep, do shit you don't want to do, and get going. It's not that the kids don't have to go back to school in 2 weeks.
Right.
That is a very real thing. It also doesn't change if you sit on your ass.
It's going to happen next year, too.
It's never, like, there's always going to be a reason to not push into the next thing. And the world is full of people who are completely content with where they're at. And I love that. I also think there are a lot of people who are sitting in that space because they're super scared. And when I did that anxiety video, I've never been diagnosed with anxiety, but I know that I get anxious about shit. Yeah. That hasn't happened to me in months now. And I don't know at what point it stopped happening. I just woke up the other morning and realized, dude, I haven't woke up feeling like insane in the morning in a while. It's because I've never been more clear about what needs to happen.
100%.
And that's for me right now, that's the biggest thing. And that didn't have anything to do with Facebook videos or anything. That's just part of the whole journey. I just wish people would embrace that more.
100%. Well, and the thing, like, I try and use this analogy with people when we're talking about stuff like this. I use this a lot, and that is, if you were to write a book about your life, who would read it? Right? And because nobody wants to read a shitty book. And when you talk about the people whose books we do read, or the memoirs that we do read, or the stories that we hear about the great leaders of the world, or just very successful business people or athletes, or just people in general, right? People that we consider role models, people that we consider very compelling stories. Like, can you imagine a story of, like, Steve Jobs, and it's just like, well, he was in college, made one computer one time, and they just gave him $5 billion. It was insane. He started on a Monday, and by Thursday, the dude was set for life. Like, that's not a fun book to read. That's a shitty book to read, right? So if you can't realize that when the stuff is hitting the fan, and when you're in your dark times, right, or you're losing appointments, or you're getting at bats and you're striking out, right, and you're going, I can't do this, if you give in to I can't do this, no one's gonna read your fucking book.
Exactly.
No one wants to read a book about a guy who's like, and then I just went back to Wendy's, and like, no one wants to read that, right? So if you can't understand that every book has got multiple chapters and a narrative that involves a roller coaster of ups and downs and emotions, and eventually the peak of the mountaintop, then your mindset is a little bit screwed up. You've got to be able to look at your life and go, I'm on chapter whatever right now. I'm on chapter 1. I'm on chapter 5 of 50. Right? And you're not going to get to chapter 6 if you let chapter 5 crush you, no matter how valid your excuses are. That's what's so, I don't want to say easy. Success is not easy. But what I will say is that that's why it takes so little talent to actually be successful, because you can be the most talented person in anything, right? We have seen it in our office. We have seen people come into our world that are just masters of scripts on the phone, of setting appointments, that are crazy good talkers, that can just come in and take our database and just boom, they're setting appointments like crazy, right? But then, something goes wrong, the excuse bug gets them, and they vanish. They're out of our world, right? And then we have seen people that we thought weren't going to last a day. Like, we're talking shit about them in the halls behind their back. We're like, this isn't going to work, right? 6 months later, they keep showing up. We figured they wouldn't be there, right? And all of a sudden, they're crushing it, right? And they are producing at a level that most people would never really achieve, just because they kept showing up, understanding, like, I suck at this, and tomorrow I'm going to be better, and the day after that I'm going to be a little bit better, and I'm still going to fail, and I'm going to move forward, and that's going to be part of my story.
And I think a lot of that has to do with what your support looks like. I mean, because like, I'll be honest with you, this episode's not about real estate at all. This is life application type stuff. The whole thing about the books you read and the people you know, that really is. Is there any better way than to change your 5 dumbass friends with 5 new ones and pick up a $20 book?
Yep.
Right? I mean, look, I'll call it out right now, because if you're watching, you can see it. We have 8 people watching right now. 2 of them are Brian and I, right? But I will tell you, I can see that Chauncey's watching and Nicole Espinosa's watching. Those are people who are getting shit done.
Yep.
They still take the time out of their day just to look for other perspectives.
Yep.
What did I tell the agent this morning? If you've never heard it, go read the story about the old Chinese proverb. It's about 5 men and an elephant. And it talks about, if you were blindfolded and you were touching an elephant, what parts, the trunk and the tail and the legs and all this other stuff, what you would think you'd be feeling.
Yeah, I'll describe it differently, yeah.
Almost always part of this larger thing that you can't possibly see, because most of us are walking through our life blindfolded.
Yep.
Or at the very least, we're probably always blindfolded at different phases of our life, because you just can't ever see the whole picture.
100%.
I wish I could be on a I don't know, a tower or a bird in the sky right now, looking down at my life and being like, what the hell is he doing again? Right? Like, why is he doing that again? Sometimes when you're just in the muck, you're not going to figure it out, and that's okay. But you got to learn from that kind of stuff. And changing the people and the situations around you when something's just not working, that's a really, really huge first step.
Dude, and changing the people around you will, and you don't even, and if this is something you need to do and you haven't done it yet, you can't even imagine what it will do for you personally without you even realizing it, right? And I mean, I'm just me personally, right? The way that I talk and think and interact, and the way that my wife and I discuss hard days at the office and things like that. Like when I was with a particular group of friends, when I first got into this business, and I was still mostly, hanging out with my old bartending buddies and stuff like that, or I was just hanging out with people that maybe didn't have the same aspirations or drive that I did or whatever. Like, it was really, really easy to just quit at noon and just, hang out with them, and you just kind of feel like, just like that, there was always time and this is how life was going to be and stuff like that. I fundamentally have changed the way that I view the world, in a way that, like, when things happen to me now that I know would have crushed me before, I don't even think about them too hard now, because I know, and this is happening on a subconscious level, I know that Matt and Nick would give me shit for thinking that way. You know what I mean? And
I have built-in accountability partners to our life too.
And I don't even think about that consciously. I know that those things don't bother me anymore. Like, if I was building a YouTube channel on my own as a 24-year-old, right? And I posted, I would never post 3 shitty videos like we have, because I would be so self-conscious, right? Yep. But then when I did and nobody watched them, and all it would take was one person to be like, yeah, well, YouTube's pretty saturated. It's kind of hard to break into. I'd be like, you know what? That's probably true. I'm going to try something else, right? Like, I wouldn't have even started, much less would I have continued when I knew that, like, I didn't really have the resources at the time. I wouldn't even have tried to be resourceful. Nowadays, like, we did that with the podcast, right? Like, we did this last year. We had this stupid, what we thought at the time, idea. We're like, let's just sit around and day drink and talk real estate. Now we've got one of the top 50 business podcasts on iTunes, because every time we did a shitty episode, or we did something that we were just like, oh man, nobody's watching, this and that, we just showed up again next week and just did another one.
And guess what? We still look at people, like when we talk to people about the podcast or the Tour Academy, touracademy.com, that we're trying to grow certain things. We look at other people and we're like, damn, she had 400 people watching her today.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I look down, I'm like, oh, okay. We'll get there. Yeah. Right? All of it's a process, and you're not going to get away from it.
Well, and that's the thing, is having that circle around you that goes, man, I can't wait till we get there.
Yeah.
Is so much more empowering than being around that circle of friends that goes, man, like, that's an unbeatable opponent.
Yep.
Because that's most, and I mean, I will mention this, and to preface it, because I know my mom watches the podcast. I love my mom more than anything in the world. She's my best friend outside of my dog.
We tried to run away today.
Oh God, unbelievable. But we have always had there's been one sticking point that we just can't discuss because it gets me in a bad mindset, right? My family's all from New York. I want to live my golden years there. I've always wanted to move back to New York. I love it there. It's what I see for my future at some point. But my work is here. We're trying to build a business that allows us to do those types of things, and I still see that very much in my future, right? Every single time that, because my mom doesn't want to lose me. She doesn't want to lose her son.
Of course.
Who comes over for dinner all the time.
Yeah.
Every single time I'm looking online at, awesome places in New York. And I'm like, I can't wait to move up there and this and that. And she's like, yeah, you could do that. Or you could just, fly up on the weekends and fly back and come hang out with me and this and that. I'm like, Mom, we are not talking about this.
That's what my mom would do.
Stop trying to be the circle that keeps me from executing on my dreams. So we just don't talk about it anymore. And I'm going to feel so bad because one day I'm going to vanish and I'm going to buy a place up there and I'm going to have to fly back here on the weekends to make
That's
her
what
happy.
you'll do. That's exactly what you have to do. Yeah. She wouldn't care. Danny, you can go. You don't come over for dinner. Ryan needs to stay. Yeah. Watch a couple weeks so Danny's on the show. He's badass. Here's the other thing, too. I don't think, and this is not an original thought. Adam says this, and it's something that I struggle with because one thing I'm not good at is asking larger questions. I swim on the surface a lot, and I feel like I'm alone in that because I feel like everybody else. I'll tell you, I was nervous about sitting in this seat today because Nick does such a kick-ass job of keeping us in line and asking great questions and keeping the conversation on track that I was like, dude, my bird brain is going to be all over the place for this whole thing. And I've tried to get so much better at asking better questions. Yeah. And Adam, and if you guys don't know, I'm talking about Adam Hergenrother is the leader of our company, but he's also this really successful dude. I don't even think he's 40 yet. I mean, the guy's really got his shit together, and he's somebody that I really enjoy just listening to talk anyways. But he said something in one of our coaching calls a couple of weeks ago that just ask yourself two simple questions. What are the three things that I'm doing really well at? And what are the three things that I'm doing super poorly at? Yep. Now, this involves you being honest with yourself, right? If you are like past Matt was, you will lie to yourself about what you're doing wrong and what's going on because either blame other people and whatever else. So this is going to require some personal reflection. But if you can ask yourself those three questions, or those two questions, I would honestly say that over time, especially if you're brave enough to write it down and journal it, right? Over time, you're going to look back and you're going to realize that the level of problems that you have are going to be larger because the level of successes you're going to have to be larger, but your ability to deal with them, you're going to look at those problems and be like, I can't believe I used to worry about that dumb shit. And then you look at the stuff you're worried about now and you're like, this is 10 times bigger than that. Like I solved that. I could have solved that problem in 30 minutes had I actually sat down and looked at it objectively. And we just don't do a good enough job of that. So if you're really struggling with that sitting in one place, that paralysis by analysis thing, be honest with yourself and look at what you're currently doing well and what you're just terrible at. Yep. And I'm not even saying that finding out what you're terrible at is going to give you a solution. It's just awareness. We have somebody on our team right now who is going to do very well, I believe. Yep. They are also incredibly high energy, like to the point where stuff is coming out of their mouth before they realize they already know the answer, right? Yeah. That is not a problem of that person not being intelligent, not understanding what they need to do. They just don't know the right questions to ask. Yep. They are just frantic inside their own head, and they think there's 9,000 things to do, when in reality, it's probably like 5 things you need to be doing. Yeah. So as you bring awareness to that thought process, that person was standing right next to my desk the other day and asked a question and then answered their own question. They turned around this morning and asked us something about their schedule, and I just looked at her and I was like, why in the hell are you asking us that? Send an email to that other person and figure it out, right? It's not that she didn't know what to do. It's just bringing slight awareness to those types of things that make a person start thinking for themselves a little bit more, makes them start being better problem solvers. Dude, this is something I'm currently walking out and it sucks. I love being able to look at somebody and be like, hey, can you fix this for me? Or hey, can you do that? I love being leveraged in certain areas, but then there's other areas where it's kind of made me a little bit like inadequate as far as like getting my own grown-up shit done. Right. And I'm having to embrace the fact that, like, I think I've said it on a couple episodes, but I haven't said it in a couple of months, so I'll say it again. Nobody is rowing up in a boat next to me to save my ass. No. I have got to bail this water out for myself to get to wherever I'm going, and then guess what? There's a nicer boat there.
Exactly. Well, that you've used that analogy a million times, and I don't think it's shown itself nearly as clearly as it has for us in the past probably 6 months or so, right? Yep. Like whether it's our own business, whether it's Tour Academy, all that type of stuff, like we have had to face a lot of those things, and this is by the way, what I'm just using personal examples for our lives. This is in no way a brag fest, because the stuff that we've put out so far, like, we are trying to improve it every day. Like, all we are implementers, but our stuff is sloppy in a lot of ways right now, but it's improving every day. But we've had to face a lot of those realities. We've talked about this story before. Like, we did a webinar before for Tour Academy before we even had that badass logo.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. On a Thursday, Nick was like, we should do a webinar. And I was like, okay, when should we do that? On Sunday? Like, and we just committed to it. None of us had ever done a webinar before. We didn't even have a webinar software. Like, I immediately had to start Googling, like, what's the best webinar software, and how do you get people to come, and, like, will they like it? And the answer on Google was no, they won't. But here's the thing, like, we all were so overwhelmed, right? We were like, we don't, and by the way, we ended up having like 370 people sign up for it, which then overwhelmed us even more.
Yeah.
We were like,
just like, this has got to be good.
Yeah. We're like, we don't know what we're doing. Like, I set all the funnels up all wrong. Like, I had to go back and manually email people, like, here's where the webinar is going to be. Like, sorry, I screwed this up. And like, it was just such a daunting task for three people that really didn't know what they were doing. They just know that they wanted to do it. And we could have been like, oh, someday. Yeah. Let's learn how to do webinars first. Let's take our time. Someday never comes, dude. We said, instead of someday, we said Sunday at 6:00. Yeah. And we figured it out. And guess what? At 5:59, we were like, the camera's not working. Like, we got it in the nick of time, because the reality is, every single one of us knew what you just said. It doesn't matter that we don't know how to do this. No one's rowing up in a boat and showing us how. Like, we had to figure it the fuck out. And our excuses were valid. Hey, we shouldn't do a webinar because we don't know how to do webinars. That's a totally valid excuse. It's not going to change the reality that we didn't know how to do webinars and we wanted to do one, right? Yep. And we did that with we built the entire Tour Academy platform, just the three of us. And like I said, it's still getting better, from scratch, with no developer, no anything. We learned how to do all that stuff because no one else was going to teach us how to do it. It's the same way in business. Like, if you want to grow a team and you don't even know where to start, I get it. That's an excuse. It doesn't change the fact that you want to build a team and you don't know where to start. Yep. So you can tell yourself you don't have the resources, or you can suck it up, realize no one's coming to save you, and be resourceful and go figure it out. And that's, I think, out of all the things that you, Nick, and I have accomplished in business, what I am most proud of is that those things never get to us anymore. Like, there is nothing that we put out there that we're like, oh, we just don't know how to, like, oh, that's just never going to happen.
Today would have been an easy show to bail on.
Yeah.
Like, really easy, right? And we didn't. And again, I don't think we're just like firing off the hottest information in the world. But I also do believe that it's important to stay consistent. It's important to understand that every single thing you do is not going to be the best thing you do. That's an unrealistic expectation. I saw Draper jump on here and say, "What's up, Kyle Draper?" I saw Nick and Elizabeth did a really dope live video yesterday about some stuff. Yep. And we always, I'm not even going to say the words that Draper said not to say in the comment section, right? But it's how we ask for engagement on these videos. People are so if you guys don't know, Facebook and pretty much your phone and everything is listening all the time. So if you're saying things, they're going to hear it, right? Or if you type it in there, they're going to see it. Yep. So you can't type in that. They're going to suppress certain words and certain requests and certain things like that. So you have to change it up a little bit. I just think being around people like that, right?
Oh, it's the same in real life.
It is. It's the same thing. If you are around people, I mean, Draper jumped right on there and gave Nick what for, right? He's like, you obviously didn't watch my video because you didn't do a single thing that I said to do, right? In a totally fun way, but you got people in your life who are looking out for you, trying to make you better. It filters into other stuff. Yep. Don't be afraid to ask them who they know either. Again, he's a perfect example. He was one of our first people we had on. We were like, who else could we have on the show? Yep. We ended up getting the CEO of Lion Desk on, who led us to another guy, who I think we're like 4 people deep on that one question. And we just, in life, we don't do a good enough job of two things. We don't do a good enough job of realizing that 99% of what you are is what you made yourself to be, right? It's really easy to say, my mom was that way, my parents were that way, my spouse, or I was in this bad relationship. All those things, again, it's not that they're not true. It just doesn't mean that you have to be wherever you're at. Yeah. And look, some people start out on second base. I get it. There are people who had a better starting position than you. Still doesn't matter. It does not matter. It doesn't
change reality.
And it doesn't change what you can go out there to affect your own life. Yep. It doesn't have to be this overwhelming life of luxury and gold bars and marble tile, right? Like, it can be just a life of joy.
That's all it needs to be.
That's all it should be.
Yep.
And as soon as you start looking for that, man, I think people get a lot happier.
So here's some actionable advice. We'll end it on some actionable advice, and then I got a billionaire idea for you, Derek.
All right.
Because I know you're waiting there.
Anxiously
thumbs up. Challenge yourself now and put it on your calendar and commit to it. Something that you have no idea how to do right now. And I'll give you an example, right? So like Matt and we're doing a lot of live training events right now for our business. We put it out there, I think 10 days. Here's what we did. We put it on the schedule and we blasted it out there 10 days before our first one was supposed to go down. And I was leaving for Cabo for 5 the next day. So I wasn't getting any work done there. We thought maybe just our friends and my mom would come. We had 147 people RSVP for our first live event.
Standing on the wall.
It was nuts, right? And I texted Matt as the count was starting to go out. I get back from Cabo and I text Matt the first day, and then Heather with Lawyer's Title, our sponsor for the event, who's been awesome. And I was like, I hope we can cram everybody in and don't freak out, but we got almost 150 people signed up for this thing. And Matt goes, I'm 100% fucking freaking out right now. We didn't even have slides put together. We had no idea what we were doing. We were just like, we committed to a 3-part series, and we're like, we're going to talk about this, this, and this. And it's things that we already know, but we'd never taught it before. And we'd never really analyzed our business in a way that we can talk about how people can replicate it. And it was literally right down to the wire. Me and Matt are in the back of the room like 5 minutes beforehand, like basically drawn up touch football plays on our hands, like, or you're going to say this and then I'm going to go left, you're going to hit me on a button hook by the truck. Like that's we're just totally improvising. And you know what, people loved it, and we had an even bigger turnout for the second one because we put it on the calendar and we committed to it, and we said, you know what, if we fail at this, we're not important enough for that to be a detraction for us. We're just going to keep moving forward. So I would challenge you to put something that you've been putting off on your damn calendar and commit to it, even if you don't have the resources right now.
That is the best thing you can do. I don't have anything else to add to that from an actionable standpoint. Just whatever it is that you've been putting off that you want to do, but you think you are not good enough to do it, I challenge you to just try it anyways. I bet you're probably better at it than you think you are.
100%. So Derek, I'm at the crossroad, and this is actually a billionaire experience.
Oh,
I'm gonna tell you about somebody else's billionaire idea that they executed, and I tried to help them execute. We failed, and I think I lost a little bit of faith in humanity that day. So I'm standing at the corner of Central Park South and 5th Avenue. I'm walking north from the south side of the intersection. I'm about to cross over into Central Park. I'm with my wife. This very hefty gentleman in this beautiful Bentley Continental pulls up to the stoplight.
So excited.
He is blaring. And Derek, I mean blaring, In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. And it's in the early stages of the song. And this is a major cross section, so the lights are pretty long.
This is before the drum section.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Of course. It's the beginning of the song, and he's like, well, I remember. And so we are waiting at the intersection. He stopped. We get the walk. We go. We get to the other side of the intersection. I grab my wife, and I'm like, wait. I was like, I got to see if this is a social experiment, and I want to be involved if it is. We stand on the corner, and the light stays red for probably another 2 minutes and 15 seconds, right up to, and I'm Derek. It's blaring. Like, it is the middle of Manhattan on like a Saturday afternoon, and people are covering their ears. This thing is so loud. Everyone can hear it, so there's no excuse. Everybody knows what's going on. I'm making eye contact with people as we get closer and closer to the buildup. And I'm standing there, I'm sitting around. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, we get to that magical line. No stranger to you and me. And then, of course, I do what you're fucking supposed to do, Derek. And I go, and I'm looking around, and no one else did it. And Derek, I screamed.
I think there are actually laws against this.
If you don't do it, I think you should get ticketed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they thought I was crazy. And This is in the middle of New York City where everyone's crazy. I was screaming at people. I was like, you're all stupid. How did you not get this? This is the city of flash mobs. Like, you can't help me out with this this would have been an amazing human experience. I'm just losing my mind. Then I realized something, Derek.
Uh-oh. I
realized that while this would have been an amazing experience for me personally, for this guy, this is probably just one of a series of attempts that he's probably executing all day. I get that this guy's probably doing a billionaire idea bit.
Yeah.
He's, as soon as that light turns green, Derek, he's starting the song over. And he's been driving around Manhattan since 8 o'clock in the morning, just pulling up to what he knows are long lights, starting that song and waiting for people to do air drums. And I was so proud of him. And I was just so jealous. And I'm 100% stealing that idea. I'm just going to drive around busy cities playing that song at lights and waiting for people to do air drums. And when they do, Derek, I can imagine there's no more fulfilling feeling on earth than getting people to do that in synchronicity with you. It's a magical feeling, I can imagine.
I was going to ask you if this was maybe a like reverse psychology billionaire idea.
Yeah, I mean,
they knew they were in the presence of the man himself.
Yeah. I want to say that we had some sort of telepathic thing going on, and maybe we did. But I was really, really, really proud of that guy.
Easily the best billionaire idea you've had so far.
And it wasn't even
and
mine.
the least hurtful to other human beings. All right, so we got to get out of here. A couple things. TourAcademy.com, if you haven't checked it out, hit us up on our page here and let us know if you want a link to the webinar that we did the other day. We'll send that out. Part of that webinar is we were giving away a link to TourAcademy.com for 1 free month, so you can get in. Because here's the thing, guys, and this is the same thing I say on listing appointments. Come and sign up for a month, join the mastermind for a couple of times, and see if we're full of shit.
Yeah.
Come and test us out. I'm fine with you coming in and testing the waters. We're not trying to build some bogus like coaching academy to where we can just like bilk you for money for nothing, right? Like, take the 1 month free thing. Come in and see if it doesn't have value for you. I'm sure it does. And take us up on that offer. So I challenge you to do that first off. Secondarily, go to Nick's YouTube page, like it. Go to Undoubtedly Dallas and subscribe. Obviously, come and join us at the only real estate group worth being a part of.
Nailed it.
See, this chair doesn't mess you up.
No.
That's just
It's not proximity at all.
It's not at all. And, let your friends know about what we're doing, man. Tell them that this stuff's all right. Invite some people to the group. Invite people to watch this. This is all for everybody else. I'm kind of tired of looking at myself and listening to myself as much as I've been talking lately.
I'll be honest, I don't watch the show anymore. Not a fan.
I don't even like those guys. Anyways, we are 7 minutes over.
Appreciate
Derek, we
it.
appreciate you.
Take us out.
Duo.